but we have a plethora of songwriter excuses that we want to talk about.
We like to say at SongTown, the answer to every goal, no matter what it is, if you just want to have fun writing songs or if you want to make a career writing songs, the answer is
Hey, everybody, welcome to Songtown. I got Clay Mills with me. We have, which we actually, this should have been the word of the day last time because you said it plethora, but we have a plethora of songwriter excuses that we want to talk about. And we want to kind of
woohoo.
debunk some of these things. We've not seen each other's lists, so we're going to kind of hit each other blind with these and get responses to them. So, Clay,
And
go ahead.
Marty, I may have or may not have used some of these excuses in my past before
Hmm.
I figured out how to have a pro mindset. I
Yeah,
can own up to it. It took me a
yeah,
while to
me
get over
too.
excuse-itis.
Yeah, I think we all been there. All right, here's one on my list. It's a closed system. People are trying to keep me out. So,
Ugh.
what do you say to somebody if they come to you and they say, "You know what? Music business is just a closed system. They're trying to keep me out."
Yeah, no, I mean, I got this exact thing on my list because I got an email from an aspiring songwriter yesterday, and it started out, we're all just at the mercy of an industry with powerful gatekeepers and nearly insurmountable ability to limit those outside of Nashville from ever being heard by a decision maker. Whoa. I was like,
Wow.
oh my, wow, like that's heavy.
Hmm.
Um, here was my reply. Everyone I know, all my friends in the music business, you, myself, hardly any of us knew anyone in the business when we started.
Yeah.
We didn't know anyone. And that's the beauty of the music business is because we like to say at Songtown, the answer to every goal, no matter what it is, if you just want to have fun writing songs or if you want to make a career writing songs, the answer is learning to write better songs. If you can
Yeah.
write great songs, doors will open. And, I emailed the person and they emailed back and they go, yeah, but when you started, it was different. It was 20 years ago when you first started out. And I emailed back and said, you know what? I went to an ASCAP, the last live ASCAP award before COVID. I went a few years ago, and 40% of the winners were first time winners.
Wow.
40%. So does that sound like a closed system?
No, it
No.
does not. I used this excuse one time with my first publisher. I was like, "Well, yeah, you've had all kinds of hits. People are listening to your songs. They're begging for your songs, but they're trying to keep me out because I'm a newbie." And he said, "No, they're trying to keep you out because your songs are mediocre. So quit complaining and learn to write a better song." And I'm like,
It's true.
"Oh, okay,
It
yeah."
sounds harsh, but it's so true.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us realize in the beginning how our songs are missing the mark, because it may be the best song we've ever written, and we think surely this song is there, but then when we get in there and we compare it, we stack it up against the Ashley Gorleys of the world and the other people that are trying to get on those records, and it's not in the ballpark, and so until I acknowledged they're not trying to keep me out. They're just trying to keep average songs out
Right.
because they can't use them. It's not that they don't like me. It's not they think I'm a horrible writer, but my songs are just not there yet. That doesn't,
Yeah.
and when he said that to me, he said, "You're going to get there, but but nobody's trying to keep you out. If you write a hit, they're going to listen to it, and
Yeah.
and that's kind of something I've just kept in the back of my mind all these years is that if I write a hit, people are gonna listen and they're gonna, they're not gonna care if they know my name or they don't.
Yeah, and I mean, it kinda leads me to the first thing on my list, um, where people say often, "Well, I don't write that crap on the radio. It's too formula and it's too," my music is more artistic, even though I wanna be on the radio, I don't write that crap, and I think for I think there's James Garner, a famous actor from years gone by, somebody was talking to him and they said, "You know, when you act, it doesn't seem like you're acting." And he's like, "Yeah, that's by design."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and to me, that's kind of like great songwriting. Great songwriting is so clear and accurate, and it hits you where, in the heart where it's supposed to hit. It seems so simple a lot of times on the surface until you sit down and you try to write something that good, that effective, and then you go, "Oh, yeah, like my melody in the second line is adding 4 extra syllables because my lyrics are not fitting in the way they should." And then, and it becomes this mountain of problems to solve. And the very hardest thing to do is to appear like you weren't writing, you
yeah.
know, because there are a plethora of ways
Ding,
that
ding,
you can
ding.
look impressive. If you're
Yeah,
trying to look impressive with your writing, you can do that, but you're gonna have a harder time affecting people in the heart by trying to
yeah.
be impressive.
I tell people in my lyric classes sometimes, it feels like you're trying to impress me instead of communicating something clearly. And sometimes people ask us if Songtown is a country songwriting site, and I tell them absolutely not. What we're teaching people is how to communicate clearly with music and words, and you can apply that in any genre. But that's the secret, like you said, of great songs is making it sound like that's just something you'd say, as opposed
Yeah.
to, "Oh, well, that's a clever rhyme for orange right there. I've never heard that one." That's not gonna get your song cut, but clear, heartfelt communication will.
Yeah, and if it's a clever rhyme, doing it in a way that makes it feel like it was just obvious conversation that had to happen, that's the magic. When I
Yeah,
hear a great line, it doesn't make me think, "Oh, wow." Like, it doesn't stand out. It's almost a great line because of how it fits in so well to the piece, and it just seems so natural. And
yeah,
even if it doesn't feel like something you would say every day, it still feels like conversation. That's the trick. But a lot of times
yeah,
when people try to get clever with the lyrics, it just comes off as sounding, well, nobody would say that. It
yeah,
sounds awkward. It sounds like you're trying too hard.
yeah. Alright, I've got another excuse.
Okay.
I don't live in a music center.
Oh,
What
okay.
do you
Well,
say to
I can just
somebody in
tell
that?
you, I can tell you from my own personal experience. Um, I lived in New York City, which was a music center, and I was doing at the time programming, writing, doing tracks, vocals for TV ads. And the whole time I was doing it, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to move to Nashville and be a songwriter. That was my dream. Not and So there was probably like 3 people in New York that wrote country music at that time. Like, it was not a popular thing.
Mhm.
Um, so I did not know anyone in Nashville that was in the music business, 0. So what I did was I found someone in New York that had been coming. He was a TV actor, and his dream was to be a country artist. So he was coming down, and labels would take meetings with him because he was a famous actor. And great guy, great writer too. But he came down, met with Mark Bright at EMI Publishing, and had been meeting with Mark, on and off for several years. Nothing was going on. So this guy and I started writing. He brought some of our songs down, and this goes back to what we were saying before. Immediately, Mark Bright goes, "Who did you write these songs with?" He's like, "These don't sound like your other songs." He's like, "I love this." You know,
Mhm.
I get a call from Mark Bright going, "What are you doing? You're a good writer. I like what you're doing." And, a year later, I had a publishing deal in Nashville with that publisher at EMI. It all came down to the songs. And
Yeah.
and believe me, I was at this point, I was in my early 30s. I was not like some young kid who knew it all. Like, it took me a long time to get to that point where I could write a good song, but it all came down to that song. So it doesn't matter who you know. If you write a good song, I can't tell you the excitement in Mark Bright's voice at EMI when he called me because he heard something he loved. He
Yeah.
goes, "This doesn't sound like everything people are pitching me here, but it still works in the marketplace. It's got a different voice," and he really loved it. So, to me, that goes back to us saying, "Hey, if you're trying to break into the business, you gotta focus on writing great songs and never stop getting better as a writer."
I think one big point from what you just told as well is that you just took advantage of the opportunities you had. You had
Right.
an opportunity to write with this guy, and because of that relationship with that guy, this other good thing happened, and you weren't in Nashville, working that system to make that happen. And there's a story I love to tell because it kind of debunks the idea of it's a closed system where I don't live in a music center. We had a Songtown member, Lance Sims, who got a cut on a major label artist that was an outside cut. He didn't write it with her. I wrote with her 2 or 3 times, knew her, I've got her phone number, I mean, all these things,
Yeah.
and I did not get a cut on the record. So in that instance, being in Nashville or having a track record had nothing to do with it because he had a song that she loved more than the songs I wrote with her, you know?
Yeah.
And so and to the next one on my list was that, I don't know anyone. It When I started, I knew one person. So if you know me and Clay, you've doubled what I knew, the people I knew in the music business. And that one person introduced me to a couple people, and those people introduced me to some other people. And I gradually built up this network of people. And one of those people got a deal, and the publisher loved what we wrote. So he called me
Yeah.
instead of me having to go, knock on doors because of the relationships I built. I got a publishing deal, and Clay and I created Songtown just for this purpose, for people who don't live in a music center to be able to connect with other people, to build up a network, and we see that kind of thing paying off all the time. We have a couple people that met in our classes, and they've had a couple of number ones in Australia. The artist Gail and Sarah Davis, songwriter, met at one of our events. They went on to have the number one pop song in the world. So it's not all about living in a music center. It's not how many people you know. It's what you
Mhm.
do with the relationships you have and what sort of network you're building. And you can do that remotely. COVID kind of changed the world in that regard, and that so much more business now is done remote, that it matters even less where you live. So that's what I tell people when I hear that excuse. It's like, if you live in Timbuktu and you work at building a network of talented people to work with, and you keep your head down and you keep writing better songs, you've got opportunities.
It boils down to, can you write a song that when someone hears it, they get shivers, they get that frisson moment. Word of the day. Ding,
But
ding,
what
ding,
moment?
ding. Hey, there's a
What? I don't even know that
throw in a
word.
little frisson, frisson,
Wow.
some French in there. I hope I'm
Oh,
saying it
wow.
right.
I don't even know
Um,
that word.
it's kind of like that moment where you get goosebumps. And,
Ah,
we had, one of the A&R people from Sony at one of our interviews a few years back, and when we asked her, "What do you look for in artists and songs?" And she said, "I look for goosebumps," like, they really want to feel something, and that gets their attention, and that it never goes away. That feeling of writing a powerful song is your weapon to slice your way into the music business.
yeah, absolutely. And I've got one more excuse. You may have more too,
Okay.
but one I hear occasionally is I'm older. I'm an older person. I'm not one of these 20-year-olds that's coming out of the gate writing all these, hip hoppy country kind of songs or whatever. And my response to them is, well, I was mid 30s when I started. Um,
Mhm.
but again, and I don't know how old Lance Sims is. I would guess he's in his 50s. um, if people hear a great song, they don't care how old you are. And,
Right.
I counseled one of our Songtown members recently. He sent me something that he was sending out to somebody as a pitch, and it had his picture on there, and it told that he lived in Iowa. And my response was, hey, let's not emphasize that you're a 65-year-old guy, that you live in Iowa, and all those things. You don't have to put all that stuff on there or put that up front, because again, you just want people to hear the song. You don't want them to go
Yeah.
into the song thinking, well, this is probably going to be dated because a 65-year-old person wrote it. So don't
Yeah,
put your
well, when the
picture.
song becomes number 1, then it's a great story. I lived in Iowa, and I've
Hmm.
had friends that were in their 50s before they had their first big hit song. I was personally got my first deal my early 30s, took me about 7 years. I think I was 39 when I wrote my first hit.
Hmm.
Sam Hollander, we had him on the show a while back. He was 35 when he had his first pop hit. In the pop world, you go, okay, they really like youngsters and pop. Well, Sam, was mid-30s before he had any success in pop music. So, yeah, you can't basically, every time you think of an excuse, I can show you someone in the real world that bucked that excuse, that bucked the
Hmm.
system, that that overcame it,
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people in the music business are in business, and they're not going to turn down an amazing product.
No.
So if you get them an amazing song, no one is going to reject that. Unless it just doesn't fit the artist or whatever. But I mean, they're going to acknowledge this is great work. We need to find a home for this, because we can make money from it. And that's what they're there for. It's their job. So I look at it as my job is to help those people succeed by giving them songs that can help them make money. And if they make money, I make money. So you're right, Clay. I think any excuse you can come up with is going to hold you back, that you can't look at. I look at being a person in my 50s as an advantage because I've got more life experience, I've got more wisdom, I've got more things to write about. Now, can it make my songs sound dated, or, you know, hold me back in that regard, and that my language might be dated? Yeah, it can if I'm not careful. But I look at the advantages of being my age, not the disadvantages. And so I find people that can help me be cooler in my lyric and cooler with my melodies and that kind of stuff sometimes. But, there's advantages to whatever it might be, and there's disadvantages. And I think focusing on the advantages is what's gonna help you get ahead.
Yeah. In the words of a famous comedian, Steve Martin, you gotta be so good that you can't be denied.
Yeah,
And it's true. If you write a great song that gives people chill bumps because it's so real and it's undeniable, then it will open doors. I've seen it over and over and over throughout my career. And those songs aren't easy to write. Marty and I don't write those every day, and we've had our share of hits.
mhm,
But we keep striving to write those songs every day.
yeah,
And, when that magic song comes out and you've put in the work and it happens, then good things will happen for you. I
yeah,
like to thank our sponsor, Sweetwater, for keeping up with my gear habit, and helping me every time I call them, and I'm jonesing for some new gear. They're happy, more than willing to help me out, give me all the sales help I need with figuring out what will this work in my system with this plugin and this converter, and they know their stuff.
mhm,
So
yeah.
check out Sweetwater. We got links to them below. Marty, you want to say anything about Songtown?
Yeah, we got, links in the show notes to, Clay's book on mastering melody writing. We've got a book on, co-writing, which is the only one in existence. So if you're wanting to learn how to co-write, that's a good one. And then I've got one on, called Song Building, that's on mastering lyric writing. Check them out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.